Hey guys, it's Haley and welcome to another bookish video. Today I am back with another top 12 recommendation video. These 12 books that I'm recommending for you today are all springtime reads. They are reads perfect for this season. If you are a mood reader or a seasonal reader like me, you are going to love these picks. I compulsively seek out books that match the season that I am currently living in. And I need perfect books right now for that transitional period, spring to summer. I don't necessarily want to jump into like super beachy, summery poolside reads, but I'm done with my snowy, isolated reads, and these are all of the things that fall perfectly in between. But before we get into my 12 book recommendations, I do want to thank the sponsor of today's video, which is Book of the Month. Y'all know I talk about Book of the Month all the time. They are a monthly subscription service where a new hardcover, new release, or early release book will show up on your doorstep, and you get a choice of about 5 to 7 new featured books every single month. And if you don't like one of those, which I would find that hard to believe because they always have a pick for every type of reader, but if you don't, you can always choose a member favorite or skip completely risk-free. It's super easy to cancel at any time, to skip a month. Their team is so flexible and wonderful, but you're never gonna want to skip. I never do because they always have great picks for every single reader. And romance readers, you're gonna love it this month. For the next week or so, they are running a promotion where you can sign up and get your first book for $5. They have a ton of featured romance picks. Some of the ones that are featured that I've gotten from Book of the Month in the past are People We Meet on Vacation by Emily Henry, Love on the Brain by Allie Hazelwood, and The Love Hypothesis, and a couple of my recommendations that I'm going to be mentioning in this list as well. So if you want to get your first Book of the Month for $5, which is crazy, go ahead and use my link down below. Hi, this is Editing Haley coming in to say use code JUICY. You do not just have to use the link, you can also use code JUICY to start your relationship with Book of the Month with a romance book for only $5. Check out Book of the Month and get a brand new hardcover book for only $5. I also love getting my romances through Book of the Month because they are hardcover editions. I feel like when I go to Barnes & Noble, there are not a lot of hardcover romances on the shelves. They're all paperbacks. So if you want the best price for a hardcover romance, Book of the Month is truly the way to go. Thank you so much to Book of the Month for sponsoring another video of mine. And now let's go ahead and jump into the recs. I want to start out with Secretly Yours by Tessa Bailey. This is one of my favorite romances that I've read this year so far, and the entire time I was reading it, all I could think of was spring, 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 spring. I read this in very early spring for me in Texas, which was late February. I know that's still winter for most of y'all, but I could not stop reveling in the spring vibes when I read this book. It takes place in Napa Valley, which is the perfect setting, and we are following a gardener. Our main female character is a gardener, so it's just all the spring flowers and sipping wine on the patio kind of vibes. We're following her as her old crush from high school moves back to their hometown, and she is like, oh my god, he's here. This is my chance years in the future to finally maybe have a chance with him. So she is pining after him and he has no idea. He is completely clueless, although he is interested in her, and we get his perspective as he's thinking about her. But things go off on the wrong foot to start with because he doesn't remember her. So that is obviously crushing to her, and she doesn't want to say her feelings to his face. So she starts writing him these little secret admirer letters and leaving them on his running trail. So he's picking them up and thinking, oh my god, this person like knows my mind, they see me for who I am. And we watch their romance develop as he eventually comes to find out who is writing the letters. Oh my god, it is so adorable, so steamy. It builds tension so well, and there are great smut scenes that happen, you know, in the brain with self-pleasure before the actual couple gets together. So my thing is like, I would like some spice before we actually get to the tension building of the couple getting together. And this book does that. It was so adorable. Easy 5-star romance. Highly recommend for spring. And on the same kind of flowery vibe, I have It Ends With Us. I know. This one is controversial. A lot of people hate this book. This is one of my favorite books. It was one of my favorites of, I believe, 2021. Now, is this a romance? No. This is not something that we should romanticize and read it and be like, oh my God, what a cute relationship. No. A book can exist for another purpose other than romance, despite the fact that some readers, in a very toxic and disgusting way, romanticize this story. To me, this is not a romance. It is a contemporary account of what domestic abuse can look like. And as a therapist who has worked with people who are in situations where there is intimate partner violence, this book is very close to me. The representation was really empathetic and well done, and it's coming from a place of the author, Colleen Hoover's own experience, which really brings in the emotion, especially when you read the author's note and you kind of hear more about the impact of the story in real life. So this is following Lily, and she owns a cute little flower shop called Lily's Blooms, hence the spring vibes. And she falls in love with this guy, Ryle, and we follow their tumultuous and toxic relationship as Lily attempts to leave, but she continually gets pulled back in by Ryle's manipulation. It is a dark, and triggering book. If you have gone through an experience like this, I don't know if I would 100% recommend it to you, because it might not follow your experience to a T, right? This is just Colleen Hoover's experience growing up in a household similar to this. While it might not be a direct reflection of your experience, it is one of hers, and I think it's really great representation, although it is not a romance. So, recommending this with a lot of caveats, but there are some great spring vibes in here, despite the dark and triggering material. You will sob while reading this, but you will sob while thinking of floral themes. Staying in the dark spring recommendations realm, I have The Butterfly Garden by Dot Hutchison, and this is a thriller that's following this guy who has what he calls the butterfly garden, and it's all of these women that he has kidnapped that he keeps in a compound, and they're called his butterflies because they all get these intricate butterfly wing tattoos on their back, and when he's ready to just keep them on display, he kills them and displays their bodies encased in resin. So they're all these butterfly women just like held in this underground compound. It is super freaky, dark serial killer vibes, and we follow the account of an experience of a girl who was held there and then escaped. So it's not super action-packed because we are following retroactively as the girl who has escaped is accounting the story to the police, but there is a lot of dark, thrilling material in here as we follow her journey and kind of hear everything that unfolded while she was kidnapped there. This is the first book in the series. I have not read the rest of the series, but I really enjoyed this first one. It was super intense and emotional, and I recommend it for spring, obviously because of the butterfly garden vibes, but I also read this one in the spring and it worked out really well for me. So when I think of a spring thriller, I automatically think of The Butterfly Garden. Next up, y'all know I love a horror novella, so I have a couple of those to recommend to y'all. First up, we have We Can Never Leave This Place by Eric LaRocca. I freaking love this book. I feel like out of all of his books, this is the one that's least talked about, but this is one of my favorites. We are following this mother and daughter duo in the wake of the apocalypse. Like there's basically this like post-apocalyptic world where like crazy things are happening, and our two main characters, this little family, is just trying to survive. but the mom starts doing increasingly concerning things. And we are along for this crazy journey with our main character. The horror in here is a lot more fantastical. It's not real world at all. So if that bothers you, definitely not for you. But the reason why it is giving such springtime energy for me is because there is just like a lot of nature content in here, a lot of like freaky, fantastical nature, giant bugs, things of that nature. It's giving like James and the Giant Peach, but make it trippy horror. That's the best way I can describe this book, and I love it. I also have Comfort Me with Apples by Catherine M. Valente, and this is following a woman whose life is supposedly perfect. She gets out of bed and she just has this perfect little life, and we follow her on this perfect little day, but things are a lot darker than they seem on the surface, and we continually, as we read this tiny little book, we continually find out more and more and more and put together the pieces of what is actually going on here. It's all a big allegory for something that I'm not just gonna name like right off the top of the head, although the title is pretty on the nose. I loved the commentary in here. I know this is another controversial one. A lot of people don't like this one. For me, it really hit. Being a queer person and a woman who experienced a lot of religious trauma, it was a really cathartic and meaningful read for me, while still keeping a really creepy, haunting horror vibe through the entire book. It kind of reminds me of Don't Worry, Darling. A lot of the imagery is really similar, and that definitely gives me spring vibes. Aside from the, flowers on the cover and the apples, I feel like that's very spring. Jumping back into romance, I want to recommend Second First Impressions by Sally Thorne. This is one that I haven't talked about in a while, but I think it's so perfect for spring. It was one of my favorites of the year that it came out. I believe it was 2021. Yes, 2021. This was one of my favorites of that year. I absolutely love it. It's a kind of light enemies to lovers romance about this guy who moves into this like old age retirement complex because he's like kind of down bad and he's trying to get his life together. He's trying to save up money to open a tattoo shop. He's very like emo boy, leather jacket, like my type of man, but he's also like a soft boy and a golden retriever, so adorable. And he gets off on the wrong foot, makes a horrible first impression on the kind of nerdy, sweet, quiet girl who works the front desk at the nursing home, and she also lives on site, so that is her new neighbor, that fun, quirky little emo boy. They really get off on the wrong foot, like I said, but of course we watch their romance develop over sweet little old people and turtle ponds. Turtles are a big theme in this book, and it's just so cute. I believe there's like a picnic scene and just so many springtime little scenes in nature, walking through like the manicured gardens at this little old people home. It's so adorable. I cried reading this book. I love it so, so much. And Teddy, the boy, is just like one of my most favorite book boyfriends. So highly, highly recommend this one. Next up, I have a recent read, and that is Everyone in This Room Will Someday Be Dead by Emily Austen. I just read this one during springtime, and it was the perfect time to read it. It is a contemporary story. It's kind of plotless. It's really character driven. We're just following our main character as she's really lost in her life and figuring out a lot of trauma and a lot of things that are coming up for her mental health, specifically generalized anxiety disorder. This is some of the best anxiety rep that I've ever read. But she ends up getting a job at this church, and it's really not a great fit for her because she is an atheist and she's also gay, queer, figuring it out. And we follow her as she kind of contemplates life, death, religion, etc., mental health, grief, all of these things, as she's working in an environment that is very different from the way that she sees the world. It's really warm and inviting, and I felt so seen while reading it. That just gave me like a very held, sweet springtime feeling. It's also really darkly funny to me. I don't know, maybe people would not find this funny, but I did. And at the same time, it's a really emotional and intense look at how anxiety can affect someone. I absolutely loved it. 5 stars, one of my favorites of the year for sure. There's also a lot of cute animals in this book. There's cats, there's obviously a rabbit, so that was giving me springtime vibes as well. Next up, I want to talk about a super popular book, so you've probably already heard of this one, but if you haven't read it, now is the perfect time to pick it up, and that is Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I freaking love this book, and I actually just finished the series. I am so obsessed. Everyone in that show is so attractive. It's literally so insane. The girl who plays Daisy Jones, I love her. I want her entire closet. The guy who plays Eddie, oh my God, don't get me started on another rock and roll Eddie with the bass guitar, please. Why is the world doing this to me? I love him. So I highly recommend the show as well. But Daisy Jones is basically a fictionalized music biopic book. We know that Daisy Jones and this band, The Six, teamed up for this amazing once-in-a-lifetime album, but they quickly broke up amidst all of this drama after the fact. So now, years and years later, these old musicians are coming back to give an interview one time only and tell all what happened that ended their tour and all the relationship dynamics that happened between them. It's loosely based on the drama that went on with Stevie Nicks in Fleetwood Mac, so that's really interesting as well. Daisy Jones herself is based on Stevie Nicks, very loosely, allegedly. And the 70s vibes are just so real. It's just giving like springtime champagne by the pool, cute outfits, bell bottoms, and a beer on the patio. Like, it is just rock and roll summer, but I don't know. Something about this book is just like perfect for spring. It is so emotional. You will fall in love with these characters. It's also just super intriguing. Like, Taylor Jenkins Reid just knows how to write a twist, and not even in like a thriller way, just like a shocking revelation that all of a sudden you come to in the middle of this book and it's like, no, but also yes. And you just like feel for every single character. There's so much empathy in this book. There's a reason why everyone's obsessed with it, because it's that good, and the series is just as good as well. Next up, I have a couple more thrillers for you, starting off with We Are All the Same in the Dark by Julia Heberlin. This, as you can see, has all of these wildflowers on the cover, and wildflowers play a big part in the plot as well. We are following this cop and this guy who finds a girl out in this wildflower field, and this girl had gone missing. Everyone thought she was dead, but obviously she's been found by this guy. And at the same time, we're following this cop as she's investigating that girl's disappearance, but also the other disappearances of other women that have happened over the years, including the disappearance of this girl, Trumanelle, who was a girl that went to this female cop's school. So she feels like really close and connected to this case, and we're uncovering who is behind this string of missing girls over the years in this small town. It has a very small town feel. It feels like taking a day trip during spring break and going out to like a small town where you just like stop at the corner store, have a chicken salad sandwich, take some photos in the wildflowers. Like, that is what this book is giving me. There's a lot of descriptions of the town, of the heat, of the clouds, of the flowers. So it definitely gives spring. And on top of that, the twists in this book were great. I didn't predict any of the reveals, and I had a great time with it. Similarly, I have The Girls in the Garden by Lisa Jewell. This is one of my favorite Lisa Jewells, and we are following all of these little apartment buildings that kind of look out on this courtyard in the middle of them. And it's just this big shared garden space, and everyone lets their kids kind of just like play in that area unsupervised. Everyone trusts all the neighbors, but maybe they shouldn't, because one day during a springtime block party, one of the girls that is playing in this little group of kids ends up dead. And the entire book, we are looking for our list of suspects. We are trying to narrow down who killed her. It is a straightforward, fast-paced mystery plot with a beautiful British garden setting. I cannot speak more highly about this book. It is just the perfect spring thriller. If you're going to read one springtime thriller mystery from this video, it's gotta be this one. It's perfect for this time of year. Y'all know it's back to the time of year when I'm gonna push this book down your throat and almost nobody's gonna take my recommendation and you're all missing out. And that is Two Truths and a Lie by Meg Mitchell Moore. I know this looks like a really summery book, but I would recommend it more for the springtime. It's a little bit slower paced. It follows a little bit longer timeline than just the summer. And we are following this mother and daughter who moved to this small coastal town, I believe in California, called Newburyport. And it's this idyllic place to live with ice cream and flower trucks, and of course all of the rich moms walking around with Yetis full of cold brew. Yes, it literally says that on the back. And everyone who lives there is so welcoming, or are they? So we're following these two new gals in town as they try to settle in and bust into kind of the social hierarchy in this little town. There's a lot of rich people drama. There are a lot of secrets that come out. There are a ton of different subplots going on at once. And this is not just like a fluffy rich people drama thriller. It was actually a lot more to me. I really cared about these characters. I had such empathy for them. This book made me cry. I don't know what it was, but it was like the perfect balance of that like chick lit, coming of age, women, I love women story mixed with a thriller kind of mystery that unfolded and completely shocked me. And of course, you throw some spring vibes and rich people drama on top and I'm in. And lastly, we have Beach Read by Emily Henry, my first 5-star romance that I ever read and is still one of my all-time favorites. Another one that looks deceptively summery, but there's so much like rain in this book. I don't know, I think of this book and I think of rain, that I think it would be better for the April showers of spring. Of course, there are beach house scenes and beachy scenes and carnival scenes that could be really summery, but the camping scene, and if you know what I'm talking about, you know, is super springy, like misty rain coming down as you're huddled in the tent with someone you love. Like, oh my god, that's so cute. And in this book, we are following January and Gus, and they were grad school rivals. They did not like each other, and it just so happens that they are living for the summer in two beach houses next door to each other. So they are both experiencing writer's block as they're staying in this beach house trying to write their novels, and they decide to challenge each other to write in the other one's genre. And through that, they are going on these little excursions, learning more about each other, about a genre that's not comfortable for them, just kind of like stepping outside of their boxes, and of course, because it's a romance, falling in love. There is such great tension building in this book. It is not necessarily a slow burn, but there's a lot of tension, and when we finally get to the moment when everyone is confessing how they feel, it is so emotional. I also loved just like January's character development throughout the novel. It is so good, such a classic. It's a widely recommended book for a reason, and this is one of the ones on Book of the Month that you can get for $5 if you sign up now. So don't forget to check out Book of the Month down below, and I hope you guys got at least one good recommendation for the season from this video. If you did, go ahead and give me a like on this video and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Don't forget to go to therapy and read a book this week, and I will see you in my next video.